Yo, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to check out the Boss, or if you prefer to call it the Roland SP-202 wave sampler. A precursor to the 303 and 404 samplers, it leaves its own iconic mark on the history of electronic music, hip-hop especially. Before we dive into this though, I just want to say thank you for everybody who's liking and subscribing to our channel. We've got a Discord, we got plenty more stuff coming, so thank you so much. Looking at the front panel, we have a headphone jack that takes the standard 1/8 headphone jack, a source mix button, a source select and 1/4-inch mic jack. The standard small front grille that Roland was a fan of up until the 404 MK2 holds a small microphone for sampling as well. The source mix switch would allow you to bring in an external source into the mix that was playing on the 202 by flicking a switch. You could then use the control knob to feed in the external signal. Front memory slot allows you to add a 5-volt smart media card in either 2 MB or 4 MB sizes. This would allow you to utilize banks C and D for storing samples that you recorded. I wanted to add in here that these smart media cards are an absolute pain in the ass to find. I ordered a couple off eBay that were just like generic, who knows where they were from, and they didn't even work. The machine wouldn't even recognize them. I know I had this problem with a Yamaha machine and a 303 as well, so just be warned. I think somewhere on the SP forums there's a list of manufacturers that their cards will work with these machines, but you're gonna pay a premium now for this kind of stuff because it's not even recognized anymore. On the back of the machine we have RCA inputs and outputs for connecting sources and connecting out to speakers or mixers, a power switch and a power port for an AC adapter, and a MIDI in port for controlling sample playback in the 202 from an external device. A pretty simply built machine, but it does its job admirably and can really add something to samples, especially drums. Adding to this, I've never really used another MIDI device to trigger one of these machines, so like my curiosity with it is what's the real advantage? Like, in my opinion, you're probably going to sample from this into like a newer machine that has more functions like ADSR and envelopes for samples or maybe even chopping. So I've never actually used this function. Maybe I'll try it out just to see what it does, but I don't know if that's your thing, that's your thing. Try it out, it has it. I've never used it. The SP-202 has a thicker body than the 303, and it's not the same size lengthwise as the newer 404 models. I've noticed that these are getting hard to come by in good shape. I know that a couple ports on this one in this video are a little loose and may need some fiddling to get a good sound out of. I mostly use it as a sample processor, so it's not a big deal. I like the black and orange paint color scheme. I think it really fits the late 90s aesthetic. It reminds me of the show my parents used to watch with a talking car. Speaking on the design a little bit more, I really do like it. I like the color palette. I like how it seems uniform. I mean, maybe it's just me liking old aesthetically pleasing things, but I think it was a really good color palette choice. I don't really like the thickness of it. I think it makes it look awkward. Like the 303 is thinner and it just kind of lays on your table all nice. But still, I mean, it is what it is. They were probably just working out how to fit all the functionality inside this chassis, so can't really blame them too hard. Taking a look at the top panel, you have 8 sample pads similar to the SP-303. On the right side of the pad bank, you have a source and a hold button. Above those, you have your editing and bank selection buttons. It edits samples similarly to the 303. You have control over sample start and end times and an option to utilize the mark function, which will put a start or end point whenever you hit the mark button after a sample is triggered and playing. Cancel and remain for canceling functions, and remain for making sure effects are applied to certain pads. Last for that pad section is the bank selection buttons, which let you switch through all your saved samples. The current bank selection will be displayed on the LED panel that holds the sample option. Sampling fidelity and other options are controlled by the 5 thin buttons above the pad banks. Hi-Fi samples your incoming source at a little over 31 kHz. Standard has that at 15 kHz. Lo-Fi 1 will take your sample down to 7 kHz and Lo-Fi 2 at around 4 kHz. These different sample rates can do some incredible things to your drums. As a warning, they can overdo it as well. I've noticed that standard really sounds amazing, in my opinion. Lo-Fi 1 is really good for some extra texture, but in my opinion, standard is just kind of perfect. The SP-202 is a tricky machine to gauge. I think for new people starting out with production, as a first or second machine, it would kind of be a hard sell with its availability, its price, and its limitations. I do think it's a great machine for people that want to get some crunch onto their samples before putting them into a DAW or another sampler. As of the shooting of this video, eBay looks to be your only solid option with a median price of around $300. For what it can offer, that seems like a little bit of a gamble and a little bit steep based on the age of these machines. I would recommend one for about half that price if it can be found. I know you can stumble across these they're so old, maybe a family member has one kicking around that was DJing or something. I know they were primarily marketed to DJs when they came out as like one-shot effects samplers, so it might be advantageous to ask around. Facebook Marketplace occasionally has stuff like this too. I know I saw one a few months ago being sold with a Doctor Sample drum machine, which I didn't even know existed until I saw it. It looks almost exactly like the SP-202, but it's bigger and it just plays drums. It's pretty cool. I wish I should have copped it when I had the chance. I find the pads on the 202 are pretty similar to the ones on the 303. For some reason, I think the 303 are a little bit more cushy. They feel better, but then again, that could just be from like age. I like the simplified, stripped down, no nonsense-ness of this sampler. It's got very few controls. I wish it had a little bit more. But you could say this about any SP up into the newer ones. I wish it had a little bit more as far as editing function, but for what it is, for doing one shots and sampling stuff in so that you can make it sound crunchy, it's perfectly fine. The FX section has a modest 6 effects, with 2 of them being filters. There's a delay as well, a ring mod, and pitch and time. I find I use the pitch and time effects the most on this unit. They seem to sound better than some of the pitch effects on the newer units, 404 MK2 excluded. Again, in my opinion, I find it the most useful along with the crunch on the different sample rates. I'm going to throw an example in here of what drums sound like with the pitch function on, as well as sampled at standard lo-fi and lo-fi 2. Alright, drums with pitch down and standard recording. Alright, drums pitch down with lo-fi 1 recording. Some sound degradation here. Alright, drum break pitch down on lo-fi 2, the lowest sample rate. Pretty lo-fi, in my opinion, almost unusable. Alright, so now no pitching, we're going to go through the sample rates again. So here's standard. No pitching, lo-fi 1. Actually, this one sounds great too. That's very usable. No pitching, lo-fi 2. I think standard and lo-fi 1, both of those are kind of like the sweet spot for super usability of samples. I like the light crunch it puts on with standard, so for something like off a record, more melodic sample you're going to chop up, that works great. Lo-fi 1 for drums is really good, depending on the break, of course. Source material always matters, but Very, very usable. Very, very great for resampling